I want to change lives. I want to show people how to progress in their money. I want to show people how to progress in their mindset. I want to show people how to progress in their brand so that way they can take care of their family, take care of their finances, and experience freedom.
Is a published author, a motivational speaker, a serial entrepreneur. He's widely recognized as an eminent speaker with a delivery that is high energy, which you've already heard, and human potential stimulating. Andy was raised in a city of impoverishment and a college dropout with little formal education. Andy took a path of entrepreneurship, forcing a course of endless self-education that has amounted to his successes. This path has not only allowed him to change his circumstances, but allowed him to effectively communicate the desire to be great to others. He helps entrepreneurs start and scale their businesses. He is currently living in Los Angeles, California. So welcome to the Jerry Brazy podcast, Andy Audate.
Oh, man, dude, thank you so much for having me. Man, you see me on my social media, man. Thank you so much for having me on the show, man.
You bet. I'm really happy to have you here, too, because you and I have a lot in common, I think, growing up, and I want to get right into it here. Tell me about the cell phone business. So just by background here real quick, you were working at a cell phone company, selling cell phones retail, and you were very good at it, at least from what I pulled off the internet and what you provided us. And then you decided to go on your own.
When I was like 18 years old in high school, I was working at Wendy's. Oh, no, yeah, I was working at Wendy's, and I just got fired from one of my from a retail outlet where we sold clothes. And at that retail outlet, they allowed me to have any hour that I want. Like I could have any hours that I wanted. If I wanted to work full time, when everyone else was working 4 hours a day, I was working a full shift, and I got time and a half on Sundays. Why? Because I produced results with their standard, and their standard was their membership card. So I was constantly producing results, and I learned that I can essentially choose my hours. So I understood the concept of if I produce results, I get paid more. So I wanted to go into commission sales. I went to T-Mobile to apply, and they denied me. I was probably like, I'm 18 years old. They're gonna hire me at 18. So I went to the next best thing, which was Metro PCS. Learned how to sell cell phones at Metro PCS, got commission, and within a year. Within 3 months, I'm running my own store as a manager. And then within a year after that, I then left and opened up my own spot by 19. And I'm an owner operator at 19, owning my own cell phone store.
And so you went out. Where does that come from? Well, let me back up. So you got fired. I'm interested in that too. So damn. There's so much to learn from our failures, much more than our successes. So tell me about getting fired. What happened? What'd you learn from it? I
smacked my manager.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I don't say that. I don't say that really with to be proud.
Sure.
But essentially, I misunderstood the humor in the workplace and the energy and the relationship that I thought I had. So she was making jokes like, "Oh, Andy, you don't have friends. You don't have people in your life." And I was like, "Come on!" And I thumped her in the head. And then she went to go snitch to the general manager. And the next day I come to work, and I see the general manager comes to me and she says, "Andy, can you see me in our office?" And I see a bunch of money literally just like this on the desk, just like this. And I'm like, "Ooh, money, I hope it's for me." And they're like, "Hey, we saw on camera what you did, and we're going to let you go. And this is your last paycheck. We're going to pay you cash versus check." And I said, "All right, man, I'm going to Wendy's." I took the money and I left. And I went back to Wendy's. And I said to myself, "Man, Wendy's, I'm capped. Working at Wendy's, I'm capped." I learned about producing results and making more income. That's when I left Wendy's and went into cell phones.
I'm when I was 16 years old, I worked at McDonald's, and I say today, and really quick for your audience, I started my own business when I was 28, and I've done about $500 million in the intervening 20-plus years, and that comes from nothing and nowhere. I was working at McDonald's as a 16-year-old. I've had 10,000 employees in my time, and today at work, things I learned working at McDonald's, I use in practice today and have set up in my company. And so,
in your career, you've had 10,000 employees.
Yeah, correct. I've owned car washes and gas stations and convenience stores, construction companies. I have 150 odd employees right now in a transportation company, development, management. So, I've had lots of employees across many different platforms doing very different jobs across the board, and almost in every case, no matter what the business, development, home building. We own a ton of real estate, commercial real estate, operations for the transportation company, gas stations, like I said. Every single business, no matter what it was, in some way or another, was affected by the lessons that I learned working at McDonald's for 10 months when I was 16 years old. And on top of that, at that job at McDonald's, I'm a poor kid. I was a street kid at 17 years old. I have 8 brothers and sisters. And so as that poor kid, all I knew, and when you said 4 hours, all I knew at McDonald's was work. And so if someone was sick, I told them to call me and I would work. No matter what the job was, I would work. And I would leave, though, McDonald's ultimately, and any other job I had, because somebody was willing to pay me more. So I left from McDonald's and I went to work for Safeway because Safeway would pay me 25 cents or 30 cents more. But there's so much more to these jobs, I think, in the fast food industry in particular, in my experience, that pay off well down the line that have nothing to do with how much money you're paid at that time. The lessons you get being a young kid working at Wendy's can prove valuable to you for the rest of your life. In my case, specifically so, in ways that had nothing to do with, I don't know, I was probably making $2.85 an hour or something. I'm 50 years old now, so I was probably making $2.85, $3 an hour. To me, it was a fortune. But again, the money that I've made off of those lessons has been invaluable.
What is one of the things that you remember that you say you took from McDonald's that you still use and implement today?
Yeah, it's a good question. Is specifically now you're interviewing me. Perfect.
Well, I'm a sponge and I love to learn. So
sure. Specifically, I got an easy one. The way that if you think about a McDonald's or any fast food, but McDonald's in particular, they've kind of were the first ones out there. They have a huge turnover, 100, 120, 150% turnover every year. So that means they're turning over all of their employees. And so the systems they put together, they've got to be able to teach 16-year-old kids who have never had a job before how to turn out their product, a quality product, quickly, efficiently, on time. Customer service needs to be taught. Cleanup needs to be taught. How to work the register needs to be taught. And you can't spend days teaching these things. And so what they've done is they put every system that they looked at and put together, and it's greatly improved since I did it 35, 40 years ago. But when I did it, every system they had, it was simple. A button went off, a noise got made, and when that noise, all you need to know is what do I do next? And there was laminated sheets that were hanging that all I had to do was look up, or there was a sign above the stove that told me when this button goes off, do this. Lay down 10 patties. When it goes off, you got to sear them. When it goes off again, you push it and you turn them over. If it goes off again, you salt them. Goes off again, you pull them off. Meanwhile, while that goes off, the buns are in there, and the buns go off, you pull them here. It was 2.5 minutes of making a hamburger on a level that I could never have imagined. Right? You're making 10 hamburgers at a time, and I literally could turn them off on a turn. You're turning off 20 hamburgers every 2.5 minutes. So I paid attention to that. I appreciated it, and maybe I didn't appreciate it right then. Maybe the lesson. I'm not saying maybe. I'm sure the lesson didn't come back to me right away. But then, as I started to look at entrepreneurship and look at business and look at operations, once I gained a little more maturity, a little more experience, then I started to say, "Hey, wait! I can put those same practices and policies that McDonald's had in place at my car wash." I can put it in place at my convenience stores. I can put it in place working in my transportation company. Whatever it is, I was able to use that, not that specific operation, obviously, because I've never made hamburgers. I've never owned a company that made hamburgers, but the process is what was ingrained in my head, and I took that process. And I probably have 20 examples just like that I could give you right off the top of my head.
That is really powerful, man. And man, I'm 24 years old now, so when I did the cell phone business, I had made my first million in the cell phone business. However, it was subconscious to me what I was doing because I left one company and I just duplicated what I was doing in that company. I used the same POS system, the same merchant processing, like everything that was in the first company, I just brought it to the second company.
Right.
So I didn't have to start systems from scratch. However, in my current business and running seminars, and my essentially my business is my name and my brand, and in my marketing firm, I told my business partner, I said, look, we got to create something like the McDonald's, and we have to essentially be able to turn over someone at a high rate. And I just found this out, Jerry. When I tell you this, I just discovered this recently. Because what happened and this is great for any entrepreneur who's listening to this, because I was in my earlier stages in my current business in the seminar space. Every employee that I brought in, I'd spend countless hours with them, invested into them, and teaching them the ropes and how to work with me. And then once they leave, then I'm like stuck. So I don't feel like reinvesting that type of energy into people. So then I would be that position. I wouldn't have someone in that position. And then I learned about systems, how to create systems from scratch, just like the McDonald's method that you just shared. So this morning, I had someone who was insubordinate in my organization, and I fired him on the spot without a doubt, without a question. And my assistant put a post up looking for somebody else, and we'll hire that person a new person within 48 hours, because it dawned on me, Jerry, now I got a system, and all you got to do is watch the videos, watch the training, watch what your manager tells you to do, and it's duplicated within a week. That person is back on rolling. Man, that was the most profound thing I realized, and this happened recently, Jerry.
Yeah, and I think from an employee perspective, the simpler you can make things, the better it is. So part of being successful, I think, is being able to manage those employees, and the easier you can make it on them. Now, again, business is technical, and things can not be put pen to paper and spelled out specifically every single time. But you can make a best faith effort. Here's something I think that a lot of people don't understand about employees, and I'm going to generalize here, but this has been true more than it's not been for me, having had tens of thousands of employees the way I have, is that employees will, and to any employee listening, this is important, always try to protect their job. So I'll give you an example. I want to automate everything. I always have. I was in my transportation company. I was paperless years and years before every other company was paperless. So technology and computers for me has been a big part of my business. And so when you use computers and technology, you're constantly looking at, how do I automate that job? How do I automate that piece of business? Not automate the job for the purposes of getting rid of the person, because I'm always busy. There's always more to do. There's always other jobs. And I encouraged people across the spectrum, if you're doing something that is, if you have a pen in your hand and you're writing something out 200 times, or you're logging on the computer to update something 200 times, chances are we can automate that process, and you can go on to much more important things. And here's the thing, Andy, that people don't like to do. I think maybe it's just built into us that there's that resistance. I've had to fire multiple people simply because they wouldn't automate the thing that they were spending hours a day doing, because that's how they identified their job. And I would say, but that's hurting the company. I have all of these other things that I need for you to do that we're not getting to nearly as efficiently or as quickly as we should. Let's automate this out so that you can do a better job over here. Ultimately, I would fire them because they wouldn't want to make it more automated or go smoother, because they kind of latched onto it and that was their thing. And ultimately, the only choice I had was to get rid of them. That's happened on multiple occasions as you try to automate and make the job harder. When I replaced them, it's a whole nother world. The new person doesn't know any better, right? So she's all, automate that. He's all, I can do that easily. Now I just have to do this job. So those lessons can be tough for employees to learn, and the lessons are tough for employers to figure out. How do you manage that? How do you make that work? Because people are going to be reluctant to that kind of change and automation, even though it makes it a better process for the customer. I'm not talking about laying people off either. I'm talking about I've never had enough people. I've never had enough employees. So I'm always hiring. I've always been hiring, and part of that hiring is try to make it as simple as I can.
So in generating hundreds of millions of dollars and having tens of thousands of employees over the last few decades, I'm assuming.
Yeah, 20 years.
20 years in your businesses. Now, many of these businesses sound like you started them from scratch, where you had to create the systems itself from scratch, and then now that supported you in generating your half a billion dollar portfolio. My question for you in regards to that, what is the number one underlying challenge that you had to overcome, whether it be employees or systems or legal or business overall, that you had to overcome that you are most proud of?
There is different, depending on what point in the business that you ask me that question, my answer is going to be different.
Let's say 0 to 3.
Yeah, let's say 0 to 3, because I think that's the most instructive. The 0 to 3 is if you knew how hard it is to open up, run, and start a business, you would never do it. So that's number one. That's what I tell everybody. So the ability for me to have managed my way through it, having no idea about, look, dude, I'm telling you, Andy, when I say I knew nothing, I have zero education. I've said this many times. I was living in a flop house for $25 a week with hookers and heroin addicts when I was 17 years old. I've had 25 jobs in my lifetime. I didn't start my first business till I was 28 years old. So I just moved from job to job to job. I didn't know what an entrepreneur was. I didn't know what interest rates were. I didn't know what refis were. I didn't know what a P&L was. I had no idea what anything was, because nobody ever taught me. I was a tough kid from the streets that spent my life fighting, and I saw 4 murders, God knows how many suicides. I mean, that was my life growing up in the city and the part of the world that I lived in, 8 brothers and sisters and dirt poor. So when I say I knew nothing, I literally had no idea what I was doing. So that ability to come from that, have no instruction, nobody telling me what to do, and be able to work my way up to A, starting my own business, and then B, being successful at it, which means taking all of the slings and arrows and all of the punches that it throws at you, which they are many, and they keep coming, and they never stop, and being able to do that for a protracted amount of time until you get up over the hump and you start to understand it a lot better. That probably in that first 1 to 3 years is probably what I'm most proud of. Let me add, too, that I worked for a company from 21 to 28 that I helped grow from 35 employees to 100 employees. When I left and started my own business, I had some investors. I started my own business, and I went from the super busy company I had built to a company where the phone rang 4 times the first day. Twice it was my mother calling to see how business was. So I went from those 2 orders that we did the first day, I did $3 million my first year. I did $6.5 million my second year. I did $11 million my third year, and $14 million my fourth year. So,
which company? Which business?
It's my transportation business. So it was a line like this, and so my lessons that I had to learn, particularly in that first 3 years, were on a rocket ship, because it just kept coming at you all day long. But a combination of where I came from and the hard times that I had gone through, and the self-resiliency that being poor and hungry, stealing food as a kid, all of those things teaches you, I think, in a way, a lot of the skills that I needed to grow with that size business, combined with the maturity of being 28 years old, having lived that life, having a good perspective about life, not being afraid of work. I worked 15, 18 hours a day for 20 years. That's an absolute promise. And all of those things combined then got me over that first 3-4 year hump.
Powerful. That's really powerful. So what I took away from what you just said is essentially to roll, being your ability essentially overall, your ability to roll with the punches and get punched for your word protracted a long period of time is what allowed you to be successful.
Yeah, I mean, anybody that wants to be successful, I think I'm Superman, right? I've never missed a day of work in my life, literally. I got my first job when I was 11 years old. I paid taxes as an 11-year-old. I got my check. I was washing dishes at a local restaurant. The dude took taxes out, paid me my check. It was $17 and change for the day. I went down to the local supermarket, cashed the check, all for ones. I got 17 ones because I wanted a wad like the rich people had.
Yeah.
And what I saw on television. And so this goes to one of my questions for you that I saw in your write-up that I liked is that as a poor kid from the hood, the way that you were, immigrant parents, you wanted things. And you used a word specifically, unnecessary objects. But I don't like the way that wanting things is portrayed today in popular culture. I think, again, I'm you just 25 years earlier, but what drove me was the want of things, be it cars, be it a house, be it food to eat. A lot of my work ethic comes from me working, or a lot of my work ethic comes from me wanting to eat. And at the earliest ages, I equated food, because we were so poor, I equated food with work. And even now at 50 years old, that still is true. So for me, it really resonated with me in your write-up that I saw that, during your teenage years, you wanted things, clothes, disposable money, fun, electronics, other objects. And I'm a big proponent of that. That drove me, that want of things drove me. I wanted to be like the rich guys that I saw driving the cars. I wanted to do the things that they were doing and have the life that they did. I didn't know how to get there, but I wanted it. Did you feel the same way, or was it much more because you wrote unnecessary things? Did you figure out that maybe the chasing those things weren't for you?
It was definitely the I guess people, mentors or whatever that were telling me like it was unnecessary. But I forgot how old I was. Maybe like 10 or 11 years old. My dad comes up to me and I'm laying down on my bed and he says, "Andy, I'm going to New York to go buy some clothes. Do you want anything?" Because going to New York meant that you can buy clothes for like $1.75. You can buy clothes at that cheap rate. So my dad's going over there to go buy that clothes. And I said, "Dad, I only want one thing, man. I need the Nike Air Forces, the mid-tops with the swoosh, with the Velcro. Dad, if I go to school with that, I'm going to be the flyest dude in school. I need that." And
right.
3 days later, he comes back. I go through all the bags. Like he brought mad clothes. And I go through all the bags. And I'm like, where the Nike Air Forces? He didn't have enough money. So I went across the street and grabbed a shovel. And I went across the street. It was snowing that time. And I said, "Hey, can I shovel for you?" And the person said no. And I was kind of like, okay. He said no, next person. So I went to the next door and I said, "Hey, can I shovel for you?" But that person said no. And I went to the next door and that person said yes. Because if that person said no, I would have probably, I might have quit, I don't know. But the third person said yes. I shoveled. I went across the whole entire neighborhood, knocked on I don't know how many doors, maybe 80 doors. And I finally got my 16 doors that I closed and they shoveled for them, made $10 a piece. So I got my $160 and I was in my room with the ones on the bed, with the ones in the 20s and on the bed in the 5s, and I was ironing them.
Yeah.
My door was kind of jacked up. So from my point of view, my door was locked, but it was so jacked up that sometimes you could wiggle it and you could just open it up. So my mom came into my room after not seeing me for some time, and she wiggles the door, opens the door, and I see she sees all the money. And I was like, oh shoot, like I was low key like a drug dealer, because I was like, oh shoot, like, oh no, you can't see the money. It was $160, man.
Right.
But
it looked like a lot more laid out on the bed.
What's that?
It looked like a lot more laid out on the bed, right?
Yeah, especially what I did, what you did, man. I put ones there. I went to the store. I said, hey, can I just change this 10 for ones? You know, like now I got ones across the bed. I got a couple fives, maybe a 20 here and there. And I'm just ironing, making that flat, and I'm gonna hide it with a rubber band, man. There's music that I used to listen to back then that made me feel like I was a gangster. I mean, and even that portrayed to when I was 19 and I was running these cell phone stores. My employees would put the money in for my cash location. So I ran cash locations and then finance locations. So the money gets deposited automatically, but the cash locations we would have to put into a safe. And sometimes the money would pile up because my cash flow was fine, my reserves were fine. So money would pile up in the safe, and I would go into the safe during when the stores closed. So I'm in the basement listening to Gucci Mane, and I was in a position where I had the money counter on the table, and I had all this cash, like I'm literally like scooping up money and I'm putting it into the money counter, and it's counting, and I put it into bags, and then I head out. And I would do stupid stuff, like go to the casino and stuff. I'm 19, man. I'm 19, 20, man, doing stupid stuff.
Yeah, I don't know that I don't think, you know, the thing about, and this goes back to my point that I started this conversation with from your write-up, is the want of things and the want of like having money, and you doing it your way, which I love that story, me doing it my way, getting all ones so that my wad was, you know, even bigger. There's nothing the matter with that, and in my estimation, in fact, it's what I work towards, and it's always the rich fat cats. You ever notice how it's the ultra rich are always telling us that money's not the answer to all the questions? And I'm not saying the money's the answer to everything, but I'm saying that the want of money, the chase of money, and improving yourself and doing better stems from you wanted the Jordans. For me, I got a Jordan story. For me, it was $120 pair of Jordans when I was 22. Now, $120 when I was 22 was fat jack. I mean, it was big money. And I remember bringing the money together. I played basketball. We played basketball in those days 6-7 days a week, all day long. I had to have, carried my Jordans in my bag. They never touched the concrete, that program. And I bought them $120. It's the most expensive thing I bought from 0 years old till probably I was 30. Was that, for clothing, was that pair of Jordans. And so I'm with you on that 100%. I know. And I think that that's okay. I think that wanting to be an entrepreneur and go into business, there's got to be some people want to save the rainforest, which you can't do unless you make a profit. Some people want to help orphan kids, and that's great too, but you can't do it unless you make a profit. The profit has to be made, and then what you do with that money is completely up to you. And if what drives you is having a Mercedes-Benz, go to work, get the money, and buy yourself a goddamn Mercedes-Benz, because that's what drives you. And there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think, because it's what drove me.
No, 100%, man. You gotta stick true to your desires, man. You gotta stop listening to what people are gonna tell you to do, man. And I want to make a point, because a lot of people ask me, because now I'm 24 years old, and a lot of people are asking me, like, Andy, how is it that you're excelling at such a rapid pace at 24? And it's because I listen. This is an interview about me, right, Jerry?
Yeah.
And even though this is an interview about me, my ability to shut the fuck up and listen to when an elder is speaking, or someone, and I say elder, but have that respect for somebody who's speaking, who's either done something that you want to do, or in a position where you want to be, or has more wisdom than you, is your ability to shut up and just listen is going to support you in your progression. And I would more than my ego served, I would have gladly turned this interview around and interview you and learn from you, because throughout the end of time, that's going to support my growth like forever, where maybe when I'm 30, I might remember something that you said here that's more profound than just this one show. And so I want to share that with your audience, that the people who are listening, that the way to really truly be successful is to listen and learn from other people and see the mistakes and learn from them. As far as, I mean, that's how I've done it, is hear the mistakes and learn from them, and then also learn about their wins, and let them share what they feel in the heart to give, because that can really serve you in your growth.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because you have a section here about mentors, and I wanted to bring that up because first, let me back up. I want to commend you on being 24 years old and knowing to shut the fuck up, because I have a story about that. When I was 28 years old, I was running this company, this operations company that I had ran, this transportation company that I had ran for the last 6 years, and I had people twice my age working for me, and I thought I was the shit on the block, man. I knew everything. Nobody could touch me operationally. I was an asshole. I don't know how anybody can't put up with me. I was this tough kid, so I was right in your face. You know, I'm 6'4", 260 pounds. I was a nightmare. I don't know how anybody put up with me. But I'm sitting in my office at 28 years old, and I had one of my competitors from Seattle. I live in Portland, Oregon. One of my competitors from Seattle reached out to me, said, "Jerry, we know you know all the customers. We know you know what you're doing. You've trained lots of dispatchers. We want to finance you." And they sent me a pro forma. They sent me kind of a look-forward set of financials on what this business might look like. And Andy, I had no idea what the hell I was looking at. I remember sitting at 28 years old, sitting there with this paperwork in front of me. I had no idea what I was looking at. I was hot shit when it came to operations. I was hot shit because I survived my childhood. I was hot shit because I knew everything. And here I was sitting there staring at something that I didn't know. And so a little light went off in my head that said, there's so much more to life than what I'm living. I'm living in a bubble. My buddies and I are all watching sports, talking sports, playing sports, talking about watching and playing sports, right? That's all we did when we weren't working. And I said, the world is so much bigger for me. I need to get out there. What do I need to do? And I swear to you, you said this a second ago, but I promise you, I've told this story, I don't know how many times Billy could tell me on the podcast. This is 100% true. Sitting there, I said to myself, you need to shut up and listen. That's exactly the epiphany that I had, that you need to shut up and listen. Instead of talk, listen, because there's so many people that know so much more than you do. But when you know everything, which we tend to do when we're young, is think we know everything. We really don't know anything. And by listening to those that know more, you only progress that much faster. So I got rid of everybody that I had in my life. I mean, literally, dude, it was hard. But I got rid of almost everybody in my life, and I started hanging out with attorneys and accountants and people that I had always kind of snubbed my nose at, more so because they were smarter than I was, as it turns out. And I started listening and paying attention, and I got a mentor. And from then on, I've been on a rocket ship in the intervening 20 years. But it really started with that epiphany I had that said, shut up and listen, and it will take you places.
Yeah, 100%. That's what you got to do is be quiet, learn from others, and progress at an accelerated rate.
And so mentors are really important for that. Where did you find a mentor?
When I got the opportunity to work at a cell phone store, and I was just talking to him because I'm potentially doing a deal with him right now. But when I was working at the cell phone store and I was 18, the regional manager put me into one. So there was 10 stores in that organization. It was a small dealership. It was owned by a black guy named James. And but one of James' subordinates, the regional, his name was Rob. Rob put me in the busiest store to train me. So now I'm getting trained in the busiest store, and I'm building relationships. I now have like a small clientele who come and see me. Every day we're kind of having, like, it's a fun group of people. It's like a fun, like we're all having fun eating pizzas and shit. And Rob comes up to me and says, "Hey, you're going to go down to the slowest store down the street." And I said, "I don't want to go to the slowest store." And I said, I can go there for a day to like cover a shift, but I don't want to go. And they're like, "Hey man, you got to go." So I'm thinking I'm in trouble, whatever. So I go to the slowest store and I'm pissed off because now my commissions kind of opportunity kind of tanked. And when I go to the slowest store, this black guy walks in, he's bald headed with earrings in, and he's wearing a suit and he's on his phone, and he just walks by me and he's on his phone, he just walks by me. I was like, yo, who the hell is this dude? But like he's so like he looks confident as he's walking that I don't hey bro, are you robbing us, man? Just let me know. Like I don't know. But he walks to the back. And then I go to the office manager. I'm like, who's that guy? And then she says, oh, he owns the entire company. I said, a black guy owns the entire company? Get the hell out of here. So I realized that the store that I'm at, that's the Solar Store, is actually the company's headquarters, where the back is the back office, where all the 10 stores is headquartered here, and the front of it is one retail outlet. They said, hey, how do we make more money from this place? You just put a retail store in the front. So I realized that this black guy is someone I want to emulate. So every time that he's at the store or at the office, I go and ask him questions, and I shut up and I'm like, hey, can you tell me this? So he'll tell me about credit cards. I didn't know about credit cards, secured and unsecured credit cards. I didn't know that. I was 18. He's doing payroll, and I'm asking him, like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm doing payroll. I said, why is there a percentage off every check? Oh, that goes to the IRS, and then that goes to the state, and then that goes to here, that goes to there. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then I'll see people come in and leave crying. I said, why did they leave crying? Oh, they just got fired. Why'd you fire them? Oh, because of this, this challenge. Okay, gotcha. And I see people come in, leave smiling. I said, why did they leave smiling? Oh, I just hired them. I said, man, can you teach me how to do that? Yeah, sure, man. And I want you to do that to this store. I want you to hire people in the store. So I start hiring people at that store, at the slow store. Then I start firing people at that store. And this is the training that I was actually getting subconsciously. That was a blessing. So I share that story because in the beginning, I was very uncomfortable. I wanted to stay at that store. It was a comfortable experience, but I was far from growth. I was around people who were eating pizzas every day and laughing and joking and selling a phone when one customer came in. But I was moved uncomfortably, and I wanted to stay in the comfortable, but I was moving uncomfortably so I can grow. Now I'm here getting taught by this guy who's hiring, firing, teaching me about taxes, teaching me about how companies grow, teaching me horizontal growth versus vertical growth, all these different strategies that he's implementing in me. Within 6 months now, he says, hey man, I taught you so much, I need you to go run the slowest store now in the company, which is in a mall. I go to the mall, I'm running the store that I have people 26, 35 working at the store, and an 18-year-old comes in, and that's when I took it over because I had the mentorship of someone who wanted me to succeed because I was succeeding in his organization. So he did everything that he could do to pour into me so I could succeed. But he was also feeding my brain with knowledge that one day, maybe one day, I can leave and open up my own spot.
Yeah, and you had to be willing to hear that too. For anybody, any 18-year-old out there listening, or any young guy out there listening, you have to be willing to hear that. And as I often say about mentors and people in business in general, I am as approachable a person as you'll ever find for somebody who wants advice or just some thoughts on almost anything. So with my background and then what I've done in business, if somebody's looking to go or to kind of follow that path, me and every other business owner I know probably 40 business owners. I don't know a single one of them that would turn down a request to just sit down and have a conversation about business. I think we get in our heads that, those business owners are too busy. They're not going to talk to little old me. They're just looking for employees or they're not making any money. And none of that is true. We are looking to give, to continue on what we know. We're looking to pass that on, what we know, so that you can be successful. But you have to be willing to hear that as an 18, 19, 20-year-old. So I give you credit for that, because even though he said it, lots of people say lots of the right things, and many, many more people don't hear the story. They don't hear the advice. That's just the old guy talking.
Yeah, I truly believe that these successful that go overcome certain challenges innately, they want to share, so that way you don't go through the same pain that I went through.
Right. And the other thing to remember about your story there, which is something that I preach all of the time, is the uncomfortable. The opportunity is not in the easy store. That's not where you make that's not where you build your career. When it's easy, there should be bells going off. Anybody listening, there should be bells going off in your head if your life is easy. If you go to work every day and the job is simple and you're eating pizza and everybody's playing around and it's an easy job, you're not challenging yourself. You're not in the right spot in order to find success. Now, maybe for you, your thing is to just go to work every day, put in your 8 hours, eat pizza, have a good time with your friends, and go home. And more power to you. For me, that's not what I wanted. And what you have to do is you have to live in the uncomfortable. You have to search out the uncomfortable and live in it in order to learn. So while it might have been easier working in the busier store, it's harder to working in the slower store. But where did you learn more? Right? Where'd all the benefit come from?
In order for me to match the amount of money, now mind you, I was making like $400-500 a week, but in order for me to now on where I was at, bro, $500 a week was a lot of money, man. Like
sure, right?
That's you're talking about $2,000. That's $2,000, man.
Yeah.
But being in the slow store, in order for me to make money, I had to go find customers. So that was a difference. In the fast store, customers would walk in. In the slow store, man, I had to go make flyers. I had to go to next door, do kind of joint venture opportunities and so on and so forth. And little did I know that was actually setting me up for success in the future. So all these little things of uncomfortability would set me up even to today where so like for example, when I was doing when I was doing the mall where I got transferred, so they transferred me from the mall, from the slow store to the slowest store, which was like store 22 now. The company grew and now we're at 22 stores and this one store is really small, really slow. And they put me there. And all the things that I've learned to make that store number 2, which I ended up doing in a few months, I made that store number 2 in the company, was learned at the slow store. So when I opened up my business, and I went from 0 to my first $100,000, it was because of what I learned in the uncomfortable slow store. And I'll give you one of the examples. One of the examples was the whisper, where because in the mall, if you leave a certain there's like a invisible brigade that you can't pass to go get clientele in the mall, because otherwise everybody in the mall will be going out and get clients in the hallway, and that makes people uncomfortable. Then nobody's gonna come to the mall, so on and so forth. So the mall security said that if they see you there, they're gonna find the store. So what I would do is I would stand at the invisible brigade where they say I can't pass, and I would be like, psst. And I would like literally fake whisper, and I ain't saying shit. Like I'll be like, that's what I'm saying. And I'm whispering this, so someone who's maybe 100 feet away from me will be like, "What'd you say?" And naturally, I realized that's where I learned psychology with sales. Naturally, people would just be like, "What'd you say? I can't hear you," and they come closer. And then once they got closer to the brigade, to my end or my edge, I would say, "Hey, question for you. No, what I was asking you was what phone do you have?" And they would say iPhone. So when I said, "Oh, iPhone, can I see your iPhone?" They would say, "Oh no, you can't see my iPhone." But then when I would say, "Oh, iPhone, give me your iPhone, let me see it," they would give it to me naturally. So I learned about the tie down from "can I see your iPhone," asking "can I see it," versus "let me see it" or "give it to me." I learned the difference in the two. When you ask a question, they're always going to say no, but when you tell them in demand, they end up just doing it. So I would take the phone and I would take it behind my desk. I would say, "Oh, the iPhone, I see what it is." And I take it with me and they come into my store. Now I got them. Whenever you have a business, you got to go and get your customer bandwidth by any means, whatever it takes. And that was one of my strategies, that we have to go and get our customers, so that way I can make my $525 a week. Because otherwise I would end up in the paycheck with $200.
Yeah, I love that, because you got to number one, not worry about what other people are thinking about you, and you're thinking outside the box to try to go get the business. And that's that's it in a nutshell. The story you just told, probably as simply put in a nutshell, is the story of business. Who's willing to, okay, the rule is I don't step past this line. Okay, what can I do behind that line that's going to still affect what I'm trying to get done without breaking the rule outright? Right? Maybe you stretched the rule. Okay, maybe you found a loophole in the rule. That's how the game's played. That's exactly right. What are you willing to, just because you heard no doesn't mean not. Right?
Right.
You're gonna go. You're gonna figure it out.
It's funny how you said it's a game. So let me ask you, to you, do you really feel in your mind that running all these businesses, that it's really like a game of like Monopoly or something of the nature?
No, I don't think it's a game of Monopoly. For me, it's but the money and how much money you make becomes a score. Okay, and I'll put it to you this way: you can have, at this point in my life, I've got a big car collection and a house, and I've got things that I like and want, and pretty much if I want something, I just go buy it. And what has happened from doing that is that things lose their value, right? When you made $2,000 a month, and I was there with you when I made minimum wage, and I got this junker car. I thought it was the greatest car in the world, right? But it was a complete junker car. But that's what I could afford. Pretty soon, though, as you start to be able to buy the things that you want, they start to lose value because you can just go get them. Christmas starts to lose value because whatever you gave me, I could have just gone and bought myself, type of a thing. And so what you find, at least for me, was that money becomes a scorekeeper. So how successful you are, how many employees you have, how much money you're making from those employees, the size, the type, the scope, how much money you're making, all of those things kind of become scorekeeping. I'm a competitive guy. Like I said, I played sports as a kid, and I played basketball, I don't know for how many hundreds of thousands of hours in my lifetime. But, that competitive streak in me that quite frankly helped me in basketball, helped me survive my childhood, got me off the streets, got me working, and ultimately got me to where I am, has become almost like a score for me, and one that I'm proud of. And so every day I come to work and I want that score to continue. I want to keep running up the score to put me as far away from everybody else as I can. I don't want it to be the NBA where it's a blowout and then of course they come back on you like the NBA is so famous. 20-point lead ain't anything in the NBA. They're going to come back on you every time. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make it so big that nobody could cross that divide. So for me, that's really what it is, more so than the game of Monopoly. But I will say this about the game: I love the game of business. So in terms of Monopoly being a game, I love the game of business. That to me is what I'm passionate about.
Love that, man. It's man. Man, I've been working out, man. My muscles so tight, man. I can't even scratch my own back, man. I gotta use some scissors to get up to the top of my shoulders.
So tell me about your speaking engagements and the thing that you're doing there. I read your Les Brown story. Tell us that story and kind of where you are now and what you're doing.
I'm making all this money, and I'm realizing I'm still on the East Coast getting the wrong type of energy from people. I'm at a gas station, and because I have all this money, I'm spending it so stupidly. And when I say stupidly, like I realized back then, I was spending approximately $1,000 a month on rental cars, and every single 7 days I would get a new car. And I had a relationship with the guy who owned the dealership, and he would just he had me on what do you call it when I can run up a tab. So I had a tab with him, and we had that relationship where it's like, oh yeah, just don't worry about it, man. Pay it later when you come back. And whatever the amount was, I just pay. I never even looked at invoices. I just paid. And I had a car with me, and I think it was an Audi, and I'm pumping gas at the gas station, and somebody from high school, which I graduated a year and a half prior, somebody from high school saw me at the gas station, And he's like, hey man, I see you successful, man. I see you doing your thing. And the type of energy that person had, I recognized that energy was an envious type of energy, but it was how do you say the word? He was like, it was a lie. Like it wasn't genuine. It wasn't real. He was faking it,
Yeah.
To try to be nice. But I knew that type of energy was something I don't want to be a part of, and I got to get away. So I went to my friend and I said, my best friend, I said, hey man, you want to do something crazy this year? He said, what you want to do? I said, let's get out of here, bro. let's leave. Now, not thinking that other people don't have the type of income that I do, but I moved to the West Coast with him. But we moved to the West Coast. I closed down the business. I was so egotistical that I was like, I'll make the money over there. So I closed down the business, moved to the West Coast. Now I'm in downtown Los Angeles, living in a luxurious apartment with the pool, with the skyline, right by the Staples Center. I mean, I still live in downtown LA now, but back then I wasn't even back then I shouldn't have done that, but I did it anyway. So I'm living this luxurious lifestyle, but I'm overweight, really overweight. So I get a personal trainer and I go out for a run. And on the run, I'm listening to rap music, and I'm running down the street 22 minutes per mile. Like I'm running, old ladies walking by me. In my head, I felt like I was running, man. But old ladies walking by me. So I'm listening to all this rap music, trying to get me pumped up, but it's not doing anything. So I get myself a coach, and my coach is pushing me. And what he would do is he would go behind my back, and he would just, like, if I slowed down, he'd start pushing me. And it'd be uncomfortable to get that ugly push, that kind of mush push on my back. So I would try to keep up my pace as much as I can. Then I switched from listening to rap music to listening to personal development music. And I'm not the personal development music, to listening to personal development on such as Les Brown, Eric Thomas, Tony Robbins. And one day, it's like 6 o'clock in the morning, I'm out running, and I said, you know what? I'm just gonna stay focused. So I'm listening to Les Brown in my ear. Les Brown is telling a story, and I just focus on running. Now, I don't want to get pushed on my back. I don't want to get pushed on my back. So on the corner of my eye, Jerry, I see my trainer's shadow, the corner of my eye. So I'm pushing, I push. Now, and I look at the corner of my eye and I still see the shadow. So I pushed even harder. I go, zoop. Jerry, I get to the mile point, and I turn around. I'm like, yo, the shadow's still here. I turn around. Yo, Jerry, whose shadow do you think it was, man?
It was your own shadow.
It was my own shadow. My trainer's way back there. He catches up to me and he's like, yo, what the hell, bro? Where'd you get that from? I said, I don't 8 minutes per mile. I went from 22 minutes to 8 minutes per mile because I was fighting my own shadow. I realized it was my belief system that said, Andy, you're fat. You can only run 22 minutes a mile.
Yeah.
So because of that experience and listening to personal development, I believed that it was a personal development thing. So I said, that's what I want to do. I want to do personal development. I want to give that feeling of accomplishment to other people. So I had a vision right then and there to become a speaker and speak with people like Les Brown.
And so ultimately, I know you ultimately hooked up with Les Brown, right? And you were able to make something happen with him, and I think you worked with him, if I'm not mistaken.
For the audience, write this down: bandwidth. By any means, whatever it takes. By any means, whatever it takes. When I went back to my apartment, I said, man, I see that vision for me to go speak on stage with Les Brown now. So I type in how to become a motivational speaker on Google. Then I type in, like, okay, let me just type Les Brown. So I type Les Brown, how to become a motivational speaker. And Facebook ad is continually following me now. Like it just keeps following me with the ad marketing. So I put in my contact information. One of their sales reps called me. They're like, hey, thank you for your interest in joining. You can purchase the program. It's 9 video modules plus a 2-day in-person training for $5,000. I said, bro, $5,000? I never spent anything over $5,000 besides my car and my business, man. You're talking about 9 videos and a 2-day training for $5,000? Stupid. And then I went hard at him. And then I said, I compared it to a $197 program. And I said, there's another guy for like $200, man. And then he eventually convinced me, okay? He closed me. Then the next thing you know, I said, hey, if I'm gonna spend $5 grand with you, I'm gonna fly down and meet you guys. So I fly down the next day to go meet the sales guy, just the sales guy. I wanted to make sure that this was a real dude. So I fly down there, I meet up the sales guy. As I'm walking out of the office after meeting these people, Les Brown walks in. And I'm starstruck, and I'm like, yo, I didn't know you were coming. Oh my God, you're here. Hello, Mr. Brown, how are you? And he says, young man, touches my face. You look like me when I was younger. And I was like, Les, your voice, it sounds like YouTube. and he laughs and he walks away. I said, I'm staying here. I'm staying right here. So I stayed in the lobby. I'm just waiting for him to come out. Like, I need a picture. I need an autograph. I need something. I need a hug. I need something. And I overheard him talking about him going on tour. So I said, I want to be part of that tour. By any means, whatever it takes, I'm going to be part of that tour. I have my mom. My mom's depending on me because her wrist has been hurting for the last 20 years because she's a dental hygienist. She's been working in people's mouths. So, and then right before I left California, to go to California, my dad sat me down and said, Andy, can you stay in Rhode Island because I just lost my job and I need you to be the man of the house. I just got laid off. And then my brother just started college. So who's going to take care of him if I'm making all this money? My dad got laid off. My mom's hands hurting. Like, I need to be successful. So but I said I have to leave, guys. You don't understand. I have to leave. So I left Rhode Island. So this is my opportunity. Les Brown's right here. This is my opportunity to be successful. And you know what? I heard him talking about him going on tour. I went to the room after he walked out. I went to the room to talk to the president. I said, hey, can I have an opportunity? I want to go on that tour with you. And he said, the president looked at me and laughed. And in my heart, I was like, what the fuck are you laughing at? But my face, I was like, I don't understand. Like, why are you laughing? And he said, look, you're 21 years old, Andy. You're naive. You don't have experience. 485 students all opted in to go to the tour. I understand you want to, but no, I don't think it's going to be a right fit. I said, you don't understand, man. My mom, her wrist, my dad, his job, my brother, college. You don't understand. I need to be successful. And he laughed and he said, look, young man, I got work on my table. I need you to leave. I went back to California. I had a flight. I went back to California. I was still part of the training, so they had a group call with all the students, the 485 students on this group call. And after the training, about 2 hours, they're talking about how to speak and so on and so forth. They asked if anyone has any questions. So they said press *6 to be in the queue for questions. I said, okay, I'm going to be in the queue for questions. I press *6. You are in the queue. My turn comes up. Oh, we have Andy Aude from Los Angeles. Welcome, Andy Aude. You have been unmuted. I said, hey, man, I need my opportunity to go on tour. You got to understand, my mom, her wrist, my brother, college, my dad, his job. I have to go on tour. I need the opportunity. Andy, not now, brother. Andy, not now. We got to have a one-on-one conversation. I said, you got to understand. You have been unmuted. You have been muted. And I was like, yo, bro, like, they're taking me as a joke right now. And this is not funny. They're taking me as a joke because my mom, I go back to Florida. I spend like $99. I go back on a plane to Florida. I walk up in the office. I go to the president. I said, give me an opportunity. And he says, look, young man, I don't know why you even here, but I can't. I got stuff on my desk. I got meetings today. I need you to get out. So I get out respectfully. There's an event the following week. I'm staying in Miami now. I'm taking this opportunity. There's an event the following week. At the event, I get there before everyone gets there. Now I'm shaking people's hands as people are walking in. The president walks in with the CEO and he says, this guy wants to go on tour with us. I said, yeah, I do. I do. And I shake hands with the CEO and I say, hey, man, thank you so much for having me, so on and so forth. Then after the event unfolds, that 2-day event unfolds, everyone just dissipates and I go back to the office and I go talk to the president. I say, hey, can I have that opportunity to go on tour with you? He said, you're not going to quit, are you? I said, no, I'm not going to quit. I said, my mom, her hands, my brother, college, my dad, his job, I have to be successful. He looked at me and said, all right, man, if you're not going to, all right, we'll start you off in Orlando, okay? We'll start you off in Orlando. Congratulations, you made the tour. By any means, whatever it took. Yep. By any means, whatever it took. But let me share something with you, right? This mindset, that mindset, it wasn't just a mindset of like determination, right? That's imperative. However, I went through training to do that. And with the training that I went through was an uncomfortable time that when I got into California and I was so bored that I said, I need a job. And Jerry, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never shared this story before publicly. All right. I went to Cricket Wireless right before I left the East Coast. Cricket Wireless, who's owned by AT&T, offered me a 6-figure check. So it was boom, $135,000 to stay on the East Coast and open up stores. $135,000. I declined, and I came here. So I went to a Cricket Wireless dealer here, and I said, hey, this is what happened on the East Coast. I can work with you guys, support your growth. I was so bored. Now, what happened was the week prior, I had not smoked weed in a long time. The week prior, in California, someone happened to bring weed around me. And I took a hit of the joint. And when I went to Cricket, they said, hey, we're just gonna do a routine drug test. And I said, bro, let me tell you something. It was just last week, one time, bro, never gonna do it again. All right, so we don't gotta do the drug test, just hire me. He said, nah, everybody gotta go through it. So I missed the opportunity to get hired by Cricket, which was a blessing. So I get a job. So I go on Craigslist and I look for a job with a millionaire. Type millionaire on Craigslist. I see a guy who's selling copiers that talking about we're gonna do millionaire mentor training. I said, yo, that's what I'm looking for, millionaire mentor. I don't need the money, but I was so damn bored. And so I got this job selling copiers. Now in selling copiers, you're walking into offices and they're trying to kick you out, and your job is to walk right through with a smile on your face and go to the business owner and pitch them a copier. Nobody wants to buy a copier, so you're constantly getting thrown eggs, essentially mental eggs, and you gotta still walk through with a smile. So I went through that training for literally 60 days. That 60 days is what allowed me to have that persistence to go down to Les Brown's office and say, hey, I want that opportunity. That selling copies was the most uncomfortable job I've ever had. But
I've always said that if you can sell door to door, right, which a lot of young guys do, if you can sell door to door, you can do anything. Because selling door to door is about the hardest goddamn job there is.
Hell yeah, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We would be out in the field. I would have to dress up in a suit, and we would have to be out in the field in the hot summer, going to 50 doors in a day. My shoe soles on fire. I got to go pitch them and be like, hey, do you want a copy? And they'd be like, no. But I got 2 deals. I broke the company record my first month.
Because you just kept trying.
Why? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? I compare it to death. There's a story of 50 Cent comparing when he's at a business meeting with people like stars or like successful people. He compares the business deal to the pain of his mother's death when he was young. Mm-hmm. So if he says that this is going to be less fatal than my mom's death, then this is something I can handle because he handled his mom's death. So I compare it to death. So when I was out in the field, I was like, bro, I think it'll be worse to die. It's still to this day, I'm cold calling people. You see me with the headset. My ego was a little high for a while where I wasn't doing the deals that I was supposed to be doing. So, but now I'm back to doing the deals that I'm supposed to be doing and working the hours I'm supposed to be working and building the team I'm supposed to be building. And when I cold call people, that feeling of like, oh shoot, like what are they gonna say? What are they gonna think? And I compare it to death, and I'm like, man, it ain't nothing compared to that.
Yeah, and that one of the things that I preach is perspective and introspection, and that perspective is critical. I use some examples for me when I'm asked, how is it that you do everything that you do, and you're busy, your life is so busy, how do you juggle that? How do you juggle the loss of time? All the rest of it, I say, well, easy. I stole food to eat, right? How hard is my life now when I was 8 years old with my little brother stealing food to eat?
Damn. You were the oldest?
Oh, no, I got 8 brothers and sisters. So my parents had 6 kids when they were 22 years old. And then 7 years later, I came along, and I have a little brother and a little sister. So we were like two families, and my little brother and I were we're 20 months apart. So we were always the ones getting into trouble. But again, when you have all those older brothers and sisters and you're poor, they're getting all the food first, you're getting it second. And so there was never enough to eat. And so my brother and I, we knew the local Safeway, the local Century store. We had it down. We had a whole program. We knew how, whatever it was that we needed, we'd walk out with 2-liter bottles of Coke, you name it, we could figure out how to get it. We got caught, probably a lot more than what I remember, but we got caught quite a bit. But the people kind of knew that we were poor kids, and it's a different time in those days than it is today. But my point being, I never lose track of that. And the other thing I tell people who tell me, well, Jerry, you talk about 15 hours a day, and you talk about putting the time in, and you talk about hearing all of the no's, and you talk about getting shut down and having to live in the uncomfortable. That's very hard to do. I can't wrap my head around it. And I say this to them: if somebody was holding your mother hostage, and they had a gun to her head. Now, I know it seems extreme, but just go through the exercise with me. If somebody's holding your mother hostage and has a gun to their head, and if you don't do the things, let's say, that you want to do, or the things that I just laid out, or some of the things that you're talking about, if you don't do that for the next week, they're pulling the trigger on your mother. Are you going to be able to do it? What's the answer? For every single one of us, what's the answer?
They're going to do it.
They're going to do it. So saying you can't do it is not true. You won't do it. And there's a big difference between can't do it and won't do it. But can't do it feels better. Can't do it makes us feel like, well, it can't be done. Won't do it makes us feel bad. Won't do it doesn't feel good to us. Won't do it is us having to hold ourselves responsible for the things we won't do. So we say can't do. So I say, gun to your mom's head. Now what can you accomplish? Fuck, I bet we could fly to the moon if somebody was holding a gun. My mother's 82 years old. I guarantee I could do anything it would take to help out my 82-year-old mother would be exactly what I would do, including flying to the moon with my hands if I needed to. I'd fucking figure out how to do it, or I'd die trying, and that is the basis of success. And that's what the basis of being a successful businessman and business person, I should say, man, woman, doesn't matter which one, it is right there. There just is no no's. Don't lose perspective and be introspective the way that you were to know that you don't know what you're talking about, and you need to shut the fuck up and listen. You with me?
Yo, you're funny, man. I like this podcast, man.
Dude, it's no bullshit. Straight away. And we're out of time, unfortunately, Andy. Shit, I could go all day with you, man. That's
let's continue on for like an extra 20 minutes, man. Let's do a part 1, part 2 on this one, man.
Yeah, I like it. Let's do that. This episode of the Jerry Brazy podcast with Andy Audate was a great conversation. It went for 2 hours long. So we're doing something we've never done before. We are downloading it in 2 different pieces. So it's going to be 2 different hours, probably loaded in the same week. But it was a great conversation. He is a young entrepreneur out there trying to hammer it, and the conversation went 2 hours. So look for it in 2 pieces.